On the 20 slides shown below, I present the original photographs of the Second World War from the German archive, which are in my collection. These photos are from my collection department, Wehrmacht on the Eastern and Western Fronts. If you like it, subscribe to my YouTube, like it, so you don't miss the new weekly presentations. If you would like to order 5 inches by 7 inches copies of these photos from the original, you can specify which photos you would like to receive. Laboratory quality. Enjoy your viewing. The Nuremberg rallies, officially Reichsparteitag, meaning Rye-Hearty Congress, were a series of celebratory events coordinated by the Nazi Party in Germany. The first Nazi Nuremberg rally took place in 1923. This rally was not particularly large and did not have much impact. However, as the party grew in size, the rallies became more elaborate and featured larger crowds. They played a seminal role in Nazi propaganda events, conveying a unified and strong Germany under Nazi control. The rallies became a national event once Adolf Hitler rose to power in 1933, when they became annual occurrences. Once the Nazi dictatorship was firmly established, the party's propagandists began filming them for a national and international audience. Nazi filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl produced some of her best-known work including Triumph of the Will, 1934, and The Victory of Faith, 1933, both filmed at the Nazi Party rally grounds near Nuremberg. The party's 1938 Nuremberg rally celebrated the Anschluss that occurred earlier that year. The 10th Party Congress was named the Rally of Greater Germany, Reichsparteitag Großdeutschland, 5–12 September. This was due to the annexation of Austria to Germany that had taken place earlier in the year. The 1939 scheduled rally never came to pass and the Nazi regime never held another one as both the government and Nazi Party prioritized Germany's effort in the Second World War over everything else. Benito Amilcare Andrea Mussolini, the 29th of July 1883, the 28th of April 1945, was an Italian dictator and journalist who founded and led the National Fascist Party, PNF. He was Prime Minister of Italy from the March on Rome in 1922 until his deposition in 1943, as well as Duce of Italian Fascism from the establishment of the Italian Fasces of Combat in 1919 until his summary execution in 1945 by Italian partisans. As dictator of Italy and principal founder of fascism, Mussolini inspired and supported the international spread of fascist movements during the interwar period. After his fall from power in 1943, Mussolini began speaking more about God and the obligations of conscience, although he still had little use for the priests and sacraments of the Church. He also began drawing parallels between himself and Jesus Christ. Mussolini's widow, Rachel, stated that her husband had remained basically irreligious until the later years of his life. Mussolini was given a funeral in 1957 when his remains were placed in the family crypt. Karl Rudolf Gerd von Rundstedt, the 12th of December 1875, the 24th of February 1953, was a German field marshal in the Heer, Army, of Nazi Germany during World War II. Born into a Prussian family with a long military tradition, von Rundstedt entered the Prussian army in 1892. During World War I, he served mainly as a staff officer. In the interwar years, he continued his military career, reaching the rank of Colonel General, Generaloberst, before retiring in 1938. He was recalled at the beginning of World War II as commander of Army Group South in the invasion of Poland. He commanded Army Group A during the Battle of France, and requested the halt order during the Battle of Dunkirk. He was promoted to the rank of Field Marshal in 1940. In the invasion of the Soviet Union, he commanded Army Group South, responsible for the largest encirclement in history, the Battle of Kiev. He was relieved of command in December 1941 after authorizing the withdrawal from Rostov, but was recalled in 1942 and appointed Commander-in-Chief in the West. He was dismissed after the German defeat in Normandy in July 1944 but was again recalled as Commander-in-Chief in the West in September, holding this post until his final dismissal by Adolf Hitler in March 1945. Though aware of the various plots to depose Hitler, von Rundstedt neither supported nor reported them. After the war, he was charged with war crimes, but did not face trial due to his age and poor health. He was released in 1949, and died in 1953. Adolf Hitler, German, ADLF Hitler, the 20th of April 1889, the 30th of April 1945, was an Austrian-born German politician who was the dictator of Germany from 1933 until his suicide in 1945. He rose to power as the leader of the Nazi Party, becoming the Chancellor in 1933 and then taking the title of Führer und Reichskanzler in 1934. During his dictatorship, he initiated World War II in Europe by invading Poland on the 1st of September 1939. Hitler dominated his country's war effort during World War II to a greater extent than any other national leader. He strengthened his control of the armed forces in 1938, and subsequently made all major decisions regarding Germany's military strategy. His decision to mount a risky series of offensives against Norway, France, and the Low Countries in 1940 against the advice of the military proved successful, though the diplomatic and military strategies he employed in attempts to force the United Kingdom out of the war ended in failure. Hitler deepened his involvement in the war effort by appointing himself Commander-in-Chief of the Army in December 1941. From this point forward, he personally directed the war against the Soviet Union, while his military commanders facing the Western Allies retained a degree of autonomy. Hitler's leadership became increasingly disconnected from reality as the war turned against Germany, with the military's defensive strategies often hindered by his slow decision-making and frequent directives to hold untenable positions. Nevertheless, he continued to believe that only his leadership could deliver victory. In the final months of the war, Hitler refused to consider peace negotiations, regarding the destruction of Germany as preferable to surrender. The military did not challenge Hitler's dominance of the war effort, and senior officers generally supported and enacted his decisions. Paul Joseph Goebbels, the 29th of October 1897, the 1st of May 1945, was a German Nazi politician who was the Gauleiter, district leader, of Berlin, chief propagandist for the Nazi Party, and then Reich Minister of Propaganda from 1933 to 1945. He was one of Adolf Hitler's closest and most devoted acolytes, known for his skills in public speaking and his deeply virulent anti-Semitism, which was evident in his publicly voiced views. He advocated progressively harsher discrimination, including the extermination of the Jews in the Holocaust. Goebbels, who aspired to be an author, obtained a doctorate in philology from the University of Heidelberg in 1921. He joined the Nazi Party in 1924, and worked with Gregor Strasser in its northern branch. He was appointed Gauleiter of Berlin in 1926, where he began to take an interest in the use of propaganda to promote the party and its program. After the Nazis came to power in 1933, Goebbels's propaganda ministry quickly gained and exerted control over the news media, arts, and information in Nazi Germany. He was particularly adept at using the relatively new media of radio and film for propaganda purposes. Topics for party propaganda included anti-Semitism, attacks on the Christian churches, and, after the start of the Second World War, attempting to shape morale. Arthur Gustav Martin Fleps, the 29th of November 1881, the 21st of September 1944, was an Austro-Hungarian, Romanian and German army officer who held the rank of SS Obergruppenführer und General der Waffen-SS, Lieutenant General, in the Waffen-SS during World War II. At the post-war Nuremberg trials, the Waffen-SS, of which Fleps was a senior officer, was declared to be a criminal organization due to its major involvement in war crimes and crimes against humanity. An Austro-Hungarian army officer before and during World War I, Phleps specialized in mountain warfare and logistics, and had been promoted to Oberstleutnant, lieutenant colonel, by the end of the war. During the interwar period he joined the Romanian army, reaching the rank of general locotenent, major general, and also became an advisor to King Carol. After he spoke out against the government, he asked to be dismissed from the army after being sidelined. In 1941 he left Romania and joined the Waffen-SS as an SS Standartenführer, colonel, under his mother's maiden name of Stolz. Seeing action on the Eastern Front as a regimental commander with the SS Motorized Division Viking, he later raised and commanded the 7th SS Volunteer Mountain Division Prinz Eugen, raised the 13th Waffen Mountain Division of the SS Hanska, 1st Croatian, and commanded the VSS Mountain Corps. Units under his command committed many crimes against the civilian population of the independent state of Croatia, German-occupied territory of Serbia and Italian Governorate of Montenegro. His final appointment was as plenipotentiary general in South Siebenbürgen, Transylvania, and the Bono, during which he organized the evacuation of the Volksdeutsche, ethnic Germans, of Siebenbürgen to the Reich. In addition to the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross, Phleps was awarded the German Cross in Gold, and after he was killed in September 1944, he was awarded the oak leaves to his Knight's Cross. Fritz Freytag, the 28th of April 1894, the 10th of May 1945, was a German SS commander during the Nazi era. During World War II, he commanded the 2nd SS Infantry Brigade, the SS Cavalry Division Florian Geyer, and the SS Division Galicia. Freytag committed suicide in May 1945. In September 1940, Freytag joined the SS and was posted onto the staff of Heinrich Himmler. He was then posted to the 1 SS Infantry Brigade as Chief of Staff. During the invasion of the Soviet Union, he organized rear security operations in Belarus and assisted the Einsatzgruppen in rounding up the Jewish population in the occupied territories. Freytag was appointed commander of 2nd SS Polizei Infantry Regiment still serving on the Eastern Front. He was promoted to Standartenführer for his performance in command of a Kampfgruppe during the fighting in the Volkhov Pocket. In January 1943, he was given temporary command of the SS Cavalry Division Florian Geyer, being replaced when becoming ill. From April to August 1943 he commanded the 2 SS Infantry Brigade, and from the 18th of August 1943 till the 20th of October 1943 the 4th SS Polizei Division. He was then given command of the SS Division Galicia. He was awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross in September 1944. Freytag shot himself in the village of St. Andrea on the 10th of May 1945. Carl Friedrich Otto Wolff, the 13th of May 1900, the 17th of July 1984, was a German SS functionary who served as Chief of Personal Staff Reichsführer SS, Heinrich Himmler, and an SS liaison to Adolf Hitler during World War II. He ended the war as the supreme SS and police leader in occupied Italy and helped arrange for the early surrender of Axis forces in that theater, effectively ending the war there several days sooner than in the rest of Europe. He escaped prosecution at the Nuremberg trials, apparently as a result of his participation in Operation Sunrise. In 1962, Wolff was rearrested and prosecuted in West Germany for the deportation of Polish Jews, and he was sentenced to 15 years in prison for being an accessory to murder in 1964. He was released in 1971 due to his failing health, and died 13 years later. Rudolf Walter Richard Hess, the 26th of April 1894, the 17th of August 1987, was a German politician and a leading member of the Nazi Party in Nazi Germany. Appointed deputy Führer to Adolf Hitler in 1933, Hess held that position until 1941, when he flew solo to Scotland in an attempt to negotiate the United Kingdom's exit from the Second World War. He was taken prisoner and eventually convicted of crimes against peace. He was still serving his life sentence at the time of his suicide in 1987. Hess enlisted as an infantryman in the Imperial German Army at the outbreak of World War I. He was wounded several times during the war and was awarded the Iron Cross, second class, in 1915. Shortly before the war ended, Hess enrolled to train as an aviator, but he saw no action in that role. He left the armed forces in December 1918 with the rank of Lieutenant Air Reserve. In 1919, Hess enrolled in the University of Munich, where he studied geopolitics under Karl Haushofer, a proponent of the concept of Lebensraum, living space, which became one of the pillars of Nazi ideology. Hess joined the Nazi Party on 1 July 1920 and was at Hitler's side on 8 November 1923 for the Beer Hall Putsch, a failed Nazi attempt to seize control of the government of Bavaria. While serving a prison sentence for this attempted coup, he assisted Hitler with Mein Kampf, which became a foundation of the political platform of the Nazi Party. Hermann Wilhelm Göring, the 12th of January 1893, the 15th of October 1946, was a German politician, military leader, and convicted war criminal. He was one of the most powerful figures in the Nazi Party, which ruled Germany from 1933 to 1945. A veteran World War I fighter pilot ace, Göring was a recipient of the Paula Merit, the Blue Max. He was the last commander of Jagdgeschwader 1, JGI, the fighter wing once led by Manfred von Richthofen. An early member of the Nazi Party, Göring was among those wounded in Adolf Hitler's failed Beer Hall Putsch in 1923. While receiving treatment for his injuries, he developed an addiction to morphine which persisted until the last year of his life. After Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in 1933, Göring was named as minister without portfolio in the new government. One of his first acts as a cabinet minister was to oversee the creation of the Gestapo, which he ceded to Heinrich Himmler in 1934. Following the establishment of the Nazi state, Göring amassed power and political capital to become the second most powerful man in Germany. He was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Luftwaffe, Air Force, a position he held until the final days of the regime. Upon being named plenipotentiary of the four-year plan in 1936, Göring was entrusted with the task of mobilizing all sectors of the economy for war, an assignment which brought numerous government agencies under his control. In September 1939, Hitler designated him as his successor and deputy in all his offices. After the fall of France in 1940, he was bestowed the specially created rank of Reichsmarschall, which gave him seniority over all officers in Germany's armed forces. Heinrich Luitpold Himmel, the 7th of October 1900, the 23rd of May 1945, was the Reichsführer of the Schutzstaffel, Protection Squadron, SS, a leading member of the Nazi Party of Germany, and one of the most powerful men in Nazi Germany, primarily known for being a main architect of the Holocaust. As a member of a reserve battalion during the First World War, Himmler did not see active service or combat. Having joined the Nazi Party in 1923 and the SS in 1925, he was appointed Reichsführer SS by Adolf Hitler in 1929. Over the next 16 years, Himmler developed the SS from a 290-man battalion into a million-strong paramilitary group. He was known for good organizational skills and for selecting highly competent subordinates, such as Reinhard Heydrich in 1931. From 1943 onwards, he was both chief of the Kriminalpolizei, criminal police, and Minister of the Interior, overseeing all internal and external police and security forces, including the Gestapo, secret state police. He also controlled the Waffen-SS, the military branch of the SS. Carl Friedrich Otto Wolff, the 13th of May 1900, the 17th of July 1984, was a German SS functionary who served as Chief of Personal Staff Reichsführer SS, Heinrich Himmler, and an SS liaison to Adolf Hitler during World War II. He ended the war as the supreme SS and police leader in occupied Italy and helped arrange for the early surrender of Axis forces in that theater, effectively ending the war there several days sooner than in the rest of Europe. He escaped prosecution at the Nuremberg trials, apparently as a result of his participation in Operation Sunrise. In 1962, Wolff was rearrested and prosecuted in West Germany for the deportation of Polish Jews, and he was sentenced to 15 years in prison for being an accessory to murder in 1964. He was released in 1971 due to his failing health, and died 13 years later. Reinhard Tristan Eugen Heydrich, the 7th of March 1904, the 4th of June 1942, was a high-ranking German SS and police official during the Nazi era and a principal architect of the Holocaust. Heydrich was chief of the Reich Security Main Office, including the Gestapo, Kripo, and SD. He was also Stellvertretender Reichsprotector, deputy/acting Reich Protector, of Bohemia and Moravia. He served as president of the International Criminal Police Commission, ICPC, now known as Interpol, and chaired the January 1942 Wannsee Conference, which formalized plans for the final solution to the Jewish question, the deportation and genocide of all Jews in German-occupied Europe. Many historians regard Heydrich as one of the darkest figures within the Nazi regime. Adolf Hitler described him as the man with the iron heart. He was the founding head of the Sicherheitsdienst, Security Service South Dakota, an intelligence organization charged with seeking out and neutralizing resistance to the Nazi Party via arrests, deportations, and murders. He helped organize Kristallnacht, a series of coordinated attacks against Jews throughout Nazi Germany and parts of Austria on 9–10 November 1938. The attacks were carried out by SA stormtroopers and civilians and presaged the Holocaust. Upon his arrival in Prague, Heydrich sought to eliminate opposition to the Nazi occupation by suppressing Czech culture and deporting and executing members of the Czech resistance. He was directly responsible for the Einsatzgruppen, the special task forces that traveled in the wake of the German armies and murdered more than 2 million people by mass shooting and gassing, including 1.3 million Jews. Hitler Youth, Hitlerjugend, was established as an organization in Nazi Germany that physically trained youth and indoctrinated them with Nazi ideology to the point of fanaticism. Even at the onset of war, the Hitler Youth totaled 8.8 million members. Numbers decreased significantly, to just over 1 million, once the war began, as many local and district leaders were conscripted for the National Army. The previous average age for local and district leaders was 24, but following the onset of war, this had to change to those who were 16 and 17 years of age. These youths were in command of up to 500 boys. Near the end of the war, one Hitler Youth soldier, Heinz Schiess, aged 15 from Leipzig, was only given a half-day of training with a Panzerfaust. He was immediately given an SS uniform and directed to the front lines to fight. 16-year-old Willy Hübner being awarded the Iron Cross in March 1945 for the defense of Leoben. Huge numbers of underage males were removed from school in early 1945, and sent on what were essentially suicide missions. Hitler Youth activities often included learning to throw grenades and dig trenches, bayonet drills and escaping under barbed wire under pistol fire. The boys were encouraged to find these activities exhilarating and exciting. The Hitler Youth was essentially an army of fit, young Germans that Hitler had created, trained to fight for their country. They had the choice either to follow Nazi party orders or to face trial with the possibility of execution. The boys of Hitler Youth first saw action following the British air raids in Berlin in 1940. Later, in 1942, the Wehrertüchtigungslager or well, defense strengthening camps, were created in Germany. They were designed to train Hitler Youth boys aged 16 to 18. They learned how to handle German infantry weaponry, including hand grenades, machine guns and hand pistols. By 1943, Hitler Youth boys were facing the forces of Britain, the United States and USSR. Even younger boys from the ages of 10 to 14 years could be involved in the Hitler Youth movement, under the Deutsches Jungvolk. Girls were also involved in Hitler Youth operations, although in a limited capacity, through the Bund Deutscher Mädel, BDM, the League of German Girls. Avoiding direct armed conflict, their primary role was to produce healthy, racially pure baby boys. They were also required to run 60 meters in 14 seconds, throw a ball at least 12 meters, march for 2 hours and swim 100 meters.